India have done the job. In the end, it was all too easy and rather comfortable. A 71-run win, quite an emphatic one in this format of the game, that takes them to the top of the points table, that brings the curtain down to the Super 12 stage, and that gives us our final semi-final lineup. It was not what you expected coming into this last Sunday of this round of the World Cup, but India will finish as table toppers and will await a semi-final at the Adelaide Oval against Jos Buttler's England. For Zimbabwe, they gave us wonderful memories. They beat Pakistan. They had a bonus point come their way through a washout against South Africa, beg your pardon. But after things got interesting for them, they slipped up first against Bangladesh, then against the Netherlands, and finally that's 3 defeats on the trot now that close out their campaign. We look back at that game and the takeaways from this extraordinary day in the T20 World Cup. We also look ahead to the semi-finals on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timer. Robin Uthappa and Tom Moody in studio with me. We'll hear from Andy Flower shortly. It's the kind of feel-good win, I'm guessing, before the semi-finals. 71 runs.
Yeah, a good win. A good tick in the box. I think the opening bowlers bowled exceptionally well. Both Bhuvi and Arshdeep bowled exceptionally well. I think set the win up from there.
And they continue to be a quietly significant part of what's been India's most consistent, perhaps, department in the Super 12, Tom. We thought the bowling would be a question mark in the absence of Bumrah, but Bhuvi and Arshdeep have had quite the tournament already.
In the Australian conditions, they have thrived. They've both swung the ball, and it's a real bonus for a captain to have both left arm and right arm swing bowler that darts it both ways. And Arshdeep, Robin would know firsthand, having faced him. But he's a little bit quicker than a lot of people give him. His fair dues. He can bowl up to 140, and he's got a lively bouncer. So he has got a bit of pace if he needs it. But he's a very clever bowler with the skills to bowl at the end. So yeah, look, Bumrah is obviously a big miss, but certainly not a miss with a new ball, because these two have walked in and caused every team a bit of an issue. It's
quite nice that we speak about the opening bowlers here, even though they just bowled their 3 and 2 overs at the top and didn't come back, Andy, because they tend to set games up. After that, whatever happens, everyone seems comfortable. The bowlers seem to just go through their motions and do their thing. But these two have picked up early wickets in pretty much every game this Super 12, but perhaps the Bangladesh one. That's going to be a key part of India's success if they are to go deeper.
Yeah, they've been outstanding, haven't they? Both swing bowlers. They have certainly thrived in these early summer, spring conditions in Australia, and moved the ball sideways. I mean, we've known about Bhuvi Kumar for a long time, and he's one of the most skillful swing bowlers in the world, and has been for a while. Arshdeep, we've known less about, or the world has known less about Arshdeep. I had the pleasure of being in his company when I was with Punjab Kings, and he was a youngster coming through. And you could always see his potential, not only in his physicality and what he could deliver with the ball, but in his attitude. A very self-confident young guy, but in a nice way, with a big, broad smile, cheeky smile on his face, and he's always cheeky in the dressing room. But one particular aspect that I think he's added to his repertoire just recently is he's always been able to swing the ball into the right-hander, but he used to just run it across with a fairly straight trajectory across the right-handers. But now he's actually swinging it both ways. So he's certainly developed the skill out of his fingers very recently, and it makes him a completely different proposition to face, because he's not doing it in a very obvious manner. There's deception in there, and batsmen picking which way it's going to swing makes them doubt themselves and just makes them take a little more time in lining up a ball to hit. And so this has become a really, really important weapon for Arshdeep, and he's looking like one of the outstanding bowlers of the tournament at the moment.
I like that you bring that up, Andy. I wonder if I could just sort of ask you whether it's at all surprising that he seems to have developed this ball and seems to control it and use it relatively accurately so quickly. He's only been playing international cricket for about 4 or 5 months. Does that tell you something?
Well, it tells us something about himself, in that he learns and he seems to have learned pretty quickly. It might also tell us something about the Indian environment. He's working next to Bhuvaneshwar Kumar and other cricketers that are, and as we've seen today, really at the height of their powers. So, I'm sure there's lots of communication with each other, with their coaches. And this aspect of his game, allied to these other aspects that were already developed in Arshdeep, it means he's an outstanding package for them, and crucially for India. Not missing their star bowler that got injured before the tournament started.
Yeah, he filled some big shoes, and nice that you've got Mohammad Shami backing up these two. Wondering what role Shami would play, whether he'd do the new ball job or the death ball job. But it looks like India have got these roles pretty well sorted out.
And he's performing that role exceptionally, as Shami is, and he's bowled consistently well. He's bowled well in the death. And every time he's turned up to bowl, he's had this uncanny ability to pick up wickets, break partnerships, which has been crucial to India's success in this World Cup. Albeit they've been survived by a whisker on certain occasions. Yes. But I think Shami's bowled exceptionally well. He stood out for me as well.
Would you say, as now the Super 12 stage is over, Tom, that this area, which was considered to be India's weaker suit going into the tournament, has actually proven to be the stronger suit, or the more consistent aspect of their game rather than their batting?
It's certainly not a concern, and I think it was seen that way because we were unsure how the conditions were going to play, and it has been so far more of a bowler-friendly World Cup this year than a batter-friendly, and it's quite nice to see it turn that way because it presents different challenges for the game and for the players playing, and from a spectator's point of view, it's far more interesting to see that sort of unfold. So I think, if anything, the balance that India have thrived with that opportunity of more pace and bounce and swing and movement, and you've got to give credit to the Indian bowlers for grasping that opportunity. And Mohammad Shami, I agree, Robin. I think he's fitted into his role as more of the middle over enforcer and someone that can be reliable at the end, and that's probably what Bumrah was probably going to play anyway. Yeah. So he stepped into that role, and he's another one that's deceptively quick, isn't he? He sort of ambles in, and you're sort of thinking,
short ball.
Yeah, exactly, and you're sort of thinking, I can launch under the front foot here and punch him through the covers or lift him over the top, but he can hurry you.
Yeah, he can, and that was the thing, right? When you came to the World Cup with the Indian team, you felt like maybe their bowling is not strong enough. Will that help them progress to the semi-finals? But their bowling has turned up, and how? Yeah. We've discussed the batting outside when we've had doubts about the batting, the opening batters. What will that lower middle order do? But we've never gone to the bowlers because they've outside the fast bowlers, and we've never gone to the bowlers, and they've delivered. And there's one box that you can put a big tick across.
Yes, well done to India's bowlers. Just quickly to wrap up the bowling conversation, Ashwin among the wickets too. It's been a dry World Cup for him otherwise as far as wicket-taking ability goes. I guess that augurs well for him too, going into the semis.
Yeah, for sure. Although he's gotten the lower middle order batters out, but I think just having wickets against your name can give you a sense of confidence before going into a semi-final. So he'll take that up.
All right. I'd love to talk about the first innings, because all we did on our halftime show, as you would forgive us for, is talk about Surya Kumar Yadav. Let's leave him out now because he's awesome. Right? He's sorted. But KL Rahul's clearly back to form. And there was never any doubt from either the team management, even we knew there's never any doubt, right? We were just talking it up.
So I think, like Tom rightly said, I think there was just white noise, because I think anyone who knows and recognizes KL Rahul's ability as a batter, that he's a match winner, and when he comes off, then the results he produces will help in the team winning games, or he can do it single-handedly as well, and he's begun to do just that at the right time for India. It's the back end of the World Cup, and to have a match winner like him in form is absolutely amazing for India going into the semi-finals.
Yeah, Andy used the inflow statement for Surya. How close to inflow is KL Rahul at the back of the last two innings?
I wouldn't say he's right at the top of his game. We did see a string of lowish scores for KL at a certain stage in this tournament, but he looks in good enough nick now to make significant contributions for India. but we've seen him when he's been properly in flow in the zone, and then he actually raises his game to another level. We're just seeing the odd glimpse of it at the moment, with a couple of the early flicks against the new ball, over square leg, backward square leg, and also with a couple of his cuts over point and backward point where he's hit it for six. He did it in Adelaide a few times, I think. And that's showing that he's starting to hit the ball in the middle of the bat and feel a little more confident about his game. But if he's got the timing right, and the gods are on his side, and he starts hitting top form, then he'll be a seriously scary proposition for the England bowlers in Adelaide.
Okay. If I may, Andy, do you sense, with due respect to the two games he's had in the bowling attacks, do you feel sometimes when KL Rahul feels he's up against Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, there's a sense of, I'm going to dominate this attack? We saw the approach against Pakistan, South Africa was a little different. Now comes a World Cup semi-final. We've seen him do it in pressure games in the IPL. But as far as his big match temperament goes, playing up against the likes of Mark Wood and informed Sam Curran, do you sense this approach will carry on into the semis?
I would think so. I don't think his approach has necessarily changed because of the sort of slightly lesser opposition that he's just faced in the last couple of games. He's got an excellent game matched up against the England attack, I think. Mark Wood's pace is not a problem for him. Pace is not an issue for him. And in fact, the way that he times the ball and with it, and this built-in beautiful technique that he's got, he's more than capable of delivering against Mark Wood. He should know Sam Curran really well and Sam Curran's mix-ups. And Chris Wokes, the other pace man up front, he shouldn't have a problem with. It's not a bad pace to be attacking, actually. So I think he's matching up really nicely against the England bowlers on that surface in Adelaide.
Tom, anything to add to that?
Oh, no, I agree. I agree. I think the one difference I've seen in KL's batting over the last few weeks of this campaign, from where I saw him in the warm-up games to where he is now, he is batting with more instinctive approach than sort of being hesitant or feeling for the ball, and that's when any player, forget just KL Rahul's at his best, and we saw Sky today sort of take that to another level. Yeah. But KL to me always looks vulnerable in any format of the game is when he's feeling for the ball. Yeah. Because his technique then just gets a little bit skewed. The bat comes slightly down on an angle, and he's not getting into those decisive positions, which gives him a strong base. Now there's no doubt that he's finding those positions, and he's looking at every ball as a scoring opportunity instead of looking at every ball as a survival opportunity.
Right. Okay. Now, I kept you quiet for a reason for a while there.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw you a curveball now.
Okay.
Because we look at that middle period of that first innings, and like it has happened before, Surya Kumar Yadav in some way has, I wouldn't say got India out of jail, but certainly pushed what did not look like a 180 target, but he got them there. Now this is England coming up. It seems like sometimes when you give that sort of batter 7 or 8 overs only to have an impact, that you're robbing your team of perhaps what more he could add. They've made this change with Rishabh Pant. Is this the template that they should stick with for a semi-final, with Hardik Pandya playing perhaps a finisher sort of role in DK's absence? Would you be even tempted to throw Surya Kumar Yadav with 3 to cash in on that sort of form? I've even seen some social media chat about, because of Rohit Sharma's form, why not throw Surya up? Any of that you'd be tempted to do?
Oh, if you had 6 Surya Kumars, I'd have all 6 of them. That's always the case when you've got a player of that calibre and someone that's in that type of red-hot form. He could bat anywhere. There's no question of that. To be doing that in the semi-final, absolutely not. I'd be sticking to the combination that's worked for him and got them to this point. He's feeling comfortable in that role. He's doing it very well. He seems to not be at all wavered when he is put under pressure because someone else is going at a run a ball, or the game is just sort of, faltering. Like there was 2 wickets that were lost in not consecutive balls, but within about three balls.
Yeah.
It doesn't faze him. He just moves on and does his thing. And I think that's the strength of what he does in that position. So I'd be holding on to that strength. With regards to Punt, I'd be keeping him in the side personally. I just think he offers more against England. As I mentioned earlier about Adil Rashid, the leg spin bowler, having a left-hander there. I like the idea of that. And I just think he's a big match player. This is a big match, and I've seen it firsthand in Australia in a different format where this guy just does things that leave you walking away with your mouth wide open thinking, wow, that is special. And I just can't see how you can leave a player like that out of your side.
Do you sense perhaps then that there is something about the intent with which the batters go before him? Virat Kohli succeeded 3 out of 4 times now, building an innings and taking it deep. Today he got out 26 of 25. And it opened the doors. So there are 2 arguments here. One, that this is why someone like Kohli must be the anchor, because if wickets fall quickly, you could struggle. The other being, if it doesn't come off, that's the kind of innings you look at, and perhaps against a better bowling attack, Surya may not bail you out. So do the batters before Surya need to bat a bit differently, looking at what's after them?
My thought process with regards to that would be, how often does Virat Kohli not come off when he plays in innings like that? And that, I think, is few and far in between, and today was one of those occasions. So I would still want Virat to play that role for India, personally, because you have some really good, like, big hitters around him, and then him kind of anchor that innings down and then let the other guys go hard at the ball, and that's exactly what's been happening. But for whatever sake, if Virat plays in innings like that and gets out, then you lose Surya cheaply, then that puts India in big trouble in a knockout game. And they wouldn't want that to happen.
Sure. Andy, if you'd like to weigh in.
Yeah, I completely agree that now wouldn't be the time to move Surya up the order. I think they've got their roles really nicely sorted out, certainly to number 4. And if they play those roles well, India get big scores. With regards Pant, I think he could be useful with those short square boundaries against the spinner, against Rashid in the England game in Adelaide. So they've put him in the side for a reason today. It could well be that they were looking forward to that semi-final and giving him a little run out before then. The fact that he didn't get runs today, I don't think is important. Actually, I thought he played the right shot. He was taking the attack to the bowlers quite rightly, and it was a brilliant catch that got rid of him. He was hitting the right shot in the right sort of area, and it was a brilliant piece of cricket that got rid of him. But I think that if they play their roles well, they're going to score big runs against England on that surface in Adelaide. And they've got Hardik at 6 at the moment. And Hardik, as we saw throughout the IPL last year or earlier this year, he was outstanding in all sorts of different situations with the bat. So he's grown as a cricketer. So having that talent and that cricket brain coming in at 6 and that power is an incredible boon for India. So I think they're in a good position and they don't need to change too much going into this game.
There seems to be a very unanimous, convincing nod from the two of you too that Pant not getting runs today does not matter. This is the right side to go with in the semis. Tom?
Absolutely agree, and I think Andy brings up a really important point which you look at from a coaching perspective. Did he take the right option? Was it at the right time? Was it against the right bowler? Yes, yes, yes. Good bit of fielding, just hit it slightly straighter than he would have ideally liked. 2 metres further or even 2 inches further, that's 4 or 6. So you look at, that's because you can't overanalyze every dismissal. You need to look beyond that, and I think Andy's articulated that really well, and that's looking beyond it. So I wouldn't have any issue whatsoever around that shot that he played today.
Do you also sense it gives India some flexibility here? We've seen at times Dinesh Karthik is given this very special role, or specific role rather, of only batting after over 15. With Pant, there could be the flexibility to use him as the floater to take down spin, and you've got Hardik as insurance to do DK's role. That gives India more of a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so as well. I think especially in Adelaide, given the square boundaries that are as small as they can be in Australia, and with Adil Rashid there, I think Rishabh Pant would be the best option to take him down.
Okay. Tom.
Just the one thing to put in your mind, and it's always a good way to look at it when you're looking at selection, is that what would Adil Rashid, who would he rather bowl to?
Yeah.
And I think we know what the answer to that is.
Yeah. Okay. There you have it. It seems very intense, this discussion that we had, right? It's almost like, anyway, it was a fun game. It has been a fun World Cup. Bizarre results. So on that note, let's just look back at Zimbabwe, shall we? And what moments they've given us. Andy Flower, they've given a tough group to qualify for this World Cup, with the West Indies, with Ireland, with Scotland. You couldn't put your money safely on Zimbabwe and say they'd make it. They did get here. They beat Pakistan. They gave us some wonderful moments in a mental game against Bangladesh. They did slip up towards the end, but would you look back at this campaign and just see this as, steps forward and onward and upward for Zimbabwe?
Well, it's brilliant that Zimbabwe were back in the big time. It was great to see them out there. It was great to see that result against Pakistan. Zimbabwe were lucky to get the point against South Africa. Of course, South Africa were running away with that shortened game. But that result against Pakistan was one of the best moments in Zimbabwean cricket history. What really brings tears to my eyes is that the fact is that they didn't seize the opportunity thereafter to beat Bangladesh when they had a really good chance on a good pitch to chase 150 against Bangladesh, and came up just short at the end, and then also struggled against the Netherlands. So there was their opportunity not only to do well in the tournament but get into the semi-finals. The other disappointing aspect to the points table is that I think if they'd got into the top four, they would have automatically qualified for the next T20 World Cup. But now they have to go back through a qualification process to get into the next World Cup, which is a tough and a very competitive process to go through. So that disappoints me points-wise. But it was lovely to see Zimbabwe cricket back in the big time, mixing it with giants of the game like Pakistan and India, and I think that Dave Houghton can still be proud of the way that he led his group, and it'll be interesting to see if he can develop that group a little further.
Tom.
Yeah, one thing that I suppose concerns me about Zimbabwe and looking forward, not so much looking at this tournament. This tournament, there was some nice positives. Obviously, they're faded at the end, but three key players are 36 and 37.
Yes.
Irvine, Williams and Raza. And that is the backbone to their top order. So that concerns me to where they go from there. Have they got the depth, the resources there to be able to step in? Because that is three significant players at the twilight of their career, and where do they go in their next chapter?
All right. They did set up this World Cup though, didn't they? Yep. By nicking a point of South Africa, by rightfully arguing with the umpires that they cannot play further. That's a point that's come back to bite South Africa today. The Pakistan game, which completely threw us off. So Zimbabwe have given us more excitement than we could have hoped for as a new team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have the potential. And I definitely think they bowled much better than they have batted. They bowled exceptionally well with Chatara and
Muzarabani,
Ingarava. Raza has bowled well as well. Yes. Ryan Burles bowled well. I think he should bowl a lot more. I don't think it doesn't seem like he bowls a lot at practice, but he certainly turned up here, especially when I was in Zimbabwe and I hardly saw him bowl in the nets. And I hope he continues to bowl for Zimbabwe, because I think he can become a very decent leg spinner and an important cog in their wheel. They also have Brad Evans there, who's an up-and-coming all-rounder who's also really good. I really think they have their work cut out as far as their batting is concerned. They really have to improve on their batting, especially their top order. I think they haven't been able to fill those gaps, and consistently through over the last 6 months or so, they've been 2 down within the first 4 or 5 overs, and I think that's an area of concern that they must address. And I think they should play against the better teams a lot more often, and I hope ICC can give them a lot more games and play a lot more bilaterals or try series against better teams, so that they have a lot more exposure. And not just them, but other teams as well, other smaller nations as well. Play a lot more against the bigger nations, so that the quality of World Cup cricket also improves a lot more.
All right. Well, it was fun, Zimbabwe, and what a way to sign off. Even though the result didn't go your way, 82,000 plus in attendance at the MCG, and they've given us some fine moments. There's a viral social media clip of the fans celebrating at the Harare Sports Club after the Pakistan game. You could watch that many times. Not if you're a Pakistan fan, but otherwise you should be able to watch that many times. So well done. The points table has finally reached its conclusion, and it sees Zimbabwe, like Andy Flower points out, miss out on the opportunity to finish in the top 4. Interestingly, Bangladesh are also going to have to go through the same qualification process for the next T20 World Cup. But how nice is it to see that the Netherlands would make their place their own. They deserve it after beating South Africa and what I think surely is the biggest upset of this World Cup. Yes, we've seen Namibia v Sri Lanka, Ireland v England, Zimbabwe v Pakistan, but this surely ranks at the top of what's been a crazy Sunday. Fair to say, biggest shock of the day?
Yeah.
South Africa? Oh, still can't get over it.
Shock of the tournament.
Shock of the tournament.
Easily.
Not the day.
Easily. The shock of the tournament. It's just, as a as a fan of that bowling attack and that team and those individuals, honestly, it's just disappointing.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Andy, if you feel bad for South Africa, or if you won't let them forget the last word of this, you won't let them hear the end of this. What sort of equation do the Zimbabweans have when the South Africans do this again at an ICC event?
Well, I was born in South Africa, so I feel for them. But I also, back in the early 90s, I played and coached a bit in the Netherlands for 2 seasons actually, and so I know their setup in Holland, and a number of their older cricketers, including Basteleda's father, I know very well, and I've always loved the way that they've approached the game. They're very confident about themselves, but in a realistic way. And they are never afraid to have a full go. They play the game in a manner which is I really admire, in that they never look as if they are scared of losing, and they're willing to put themselves on the line. And that was evidenced in the way they play their club cricket when I saw it in the early 90s, and I still see evidence of it in their game now. So it's great to see them get some results.
All right, all done. Onward and upward then for the Dutch as well as for Zimbabwe. The curtain comes down on the Super 12s and gives us our semi-final lineup. New Zealand v Pakistan at the SCG in a couple of days' time, followed by India v England at the Adelaide Oval, and we shall see if India make their journey back to the MCG in a week from now in what should be a reasonably watched final if they do get there. Regardless, we do hope that the 2 better teams find their way to the finals. Expect a different tournament now. We're in semi-final stage. It is a big thank you to Andy Flower for his debut campaign on T20 Timeout, on ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, Andy. I hope you have as well.
Loved it. Thanks a lot for inviting me, Raunak.
And we can't wait to get you back. Tom Moody, you could say goodbye to. You'll probably see him across a draft meeting or an auction table at some point sooner rather than later.
We'll cross paths.
Yes, you will. Moody and Flower travel all over the world trying to make the cricketing world a better place, and they have our gratitude for it. Robin Uthappa, this is where I say thank you to you as well.
Yes, you do.
And I've enjoyed it as always.
As always.
And Tom, you could say bye to Robin.
Yeah, can I? Thank you.
Yeah.
He's saying thank you.
He's the most polite Australian I've ever had. So
That's
far.
nice. That's nice.
Yeah, so far. Yeah. All right, I can't get enough of you, so I will see you in a few days.
Perfect.
All right,
Look
thank you
forward
very
to it.
much. We look forward to your company then on semi-finals day. where Tom Moody will be with us and Anil Kumble as well. Of course, our semi-final roster had to make some changes courtesy South Africa. So we expect the company of Uruj Mumtaz and Stephen Fleming through the course of that week. So look forward to seeing you on Wednesday as we take a couple of days off. Once again, thank you very much for watching Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricinfo T20 Timeout. And of course, before I leave you, please do check out the all-new Cricinfoverse with Grand Vitara if you haven't already. It's the fans' newest destination where they can interact with other cricket fans, make a digital avatar of themselves, and also take a virtual tour of the ESPN Cricinfo studio. Not to mention, have a look at the wonderful new Grand Vitara with Maruti Suzuki. That's it from us. We'll see you on semi-finals day. Bye-bye.